So what we have here is a 1968 Oldsmobile. It's a special production model. It's called a Hurst Olds, and that was a collaboration between Hurst and Oldsmobile to produce what they called a supercar. And 1968 was the first year that they did it. They were all painted in Peruvian silver, which at that time was a Toronado only color, so that color was not available on GM A-body or an Oldsmobile 442 or Cutlass. So it's a special paint with the special stripe that you see here, and the story was that these cars were taken off the line and the conversion was done by Demmer Engineering with Hurst. And what they did was they painted the car. They put a 455 engine in it because the mid-size cars came with 400, and GM had an edict that nothing bigger than 400 will go into mid-size cars. And that was to because they had to promote the Corvette. So, but Hurst and Oldsmobile got around that with the Hurst Olds. In 1968, they only produced 515 Hurst Olds. They started in May and pretty much finished up around the 4th of July or mid-July. And this car, as you see here, is number 463. Out of the 515, only 64 were post coupes, or sport coupes as they call them. The others were hardtops. And you can tell the difference as you see the frame around the window of the sport coupe, or they call them post cars. And actually, these cars, the 64, were lighter than the hardtops because the hardtops didn't have the window frame, so they had to reinforce the frame underneath, so that added weight. So these cars were popular with the drag racers. Most of these cars were taken to the track and raced, and some, they were pretty beat up. This one survived, number 463, and it still has the original engine and transmission. I checked the numbers on them, and they do match the VIN. So with the Hurst Olds package, they basically took the W30 option, which is the high performance option on the 442, and put it on a 455 engine. So part of that is the special air cleaner, where, as you can see, the dual snorkels connected to air scoops that are down below under the bumper. The engine was painted red for the Hurst Olds, and it had a special camshaft, 308-degree camshaft, high duration camshaft, and also the heads are special, what they call D heads, with bigger valves, so allow it to breathe easier. Also, to lighten the car, they put in these special red plastic fender wells. So instead of having the black steel ones that come on regular production cars, part of the W30 package and the Hurst Olds package are the red fender wells. The car came with power brakes, and let's see what else. Inside the car, we as part of the Hurst Olds package, it had a special console, the small console there with the Hurst dual gate shifter, or as some people like to call it, his and her shifter. So it had two gates. On the left, you can drive it as an automatic with the regular park, reverse, neutral, and drive. But if you want to rev the engine, run it, you can shift over to the right side, and you can shift it manually, first, second, and third, with the 3-speed turbo hydromatic 400. So the transmission itself is a specially tuned transmission, what they call OW transmission, specially tuned for the Hurst Olds. So those are special pieces, the transmission, the engine. Also, they put in this special wood panel as part of the Hurst Olds package that was only available on Hurst Olds. And as you can see, this one I had autographed by Linda Vaughn, Miss Hurst, and also Doc Watson, who was the guy who developed the concept for the Hurst Olds, and worked with Oldsmobile on it. So I was able to get their autograph on the car, and that was special. The rear end is a 391 rear end, so it's a big gear. 411 was optional, and this has a 391, so it moves really good. Not very good on gas mileage or highways though, but great for the track. As you can see, you have the dual exhaust, dual trumpets here with the cutouts in the bumper. And this is one of the first cars to have the cutout bumper for the exhaust. Okay, like I said, 1968 was the first year of the Hurst Olds. The collaboration between Hurst and Oldsmobile continued in 1969 when they made, had the Hurst Olds, but it was white with gold stripes with the big hood scoop. And they call them mailbox hood scoop because it looked like a mailbox. And that was probably the more well-known car among enthusiasts and collectors, where the 1968 was more, low-key. But this was actually a higher horsepower engine, 390 horsepower of all the Hurst Olds. And then they also produced the Hurst Olds. They laid off in 1970 and 71, but they came out with the 1972, and then they continued in 1973, 74, and 75. And then there was also a 1979 model, and 83 and 84 was pretty much the end of it. And then later on, they came out with a kit that you can add onto a Cutlass from the mid to late 80s for the Hurst Olds. So that continued on to about 1987. And after that, that was the end of the Hurst Olds. But again, 1968 was the first year.